The word Christ refers to three offices: the prophet, king, and priest. We're going to look at the office of priest in this and next video. Why is the office of priest included in the title Christ? It's because Christ is the one who solves the sin problem of humanity. I've been sharing with you that all problems of humanity came because we sinned and left God, being deceived by invisible Satan. God continually reveals through the Old Testament books that priests were needed to take care of sin problems of people. More than you might think, there are many records of priests in the Bible, especially in the Pentateuch. It's not too much to say that Pentateuch is a record of priests and their offerings. At first, every man was his own priest and presented his own sacrifices before God, as in the cases of Adam, Cain, and Abel. Afterwards, that office devolved on the head of the family, as in the cases of Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Job. Before escaping from Egypt, God commanded each family to take a lamb. They were told to mark their doors with the blood of a lamb they've sacrificed. In Exodus chapter 12, verse 3, it says, "Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household." During this time, the family had served as priest for his family. Later on, the priests in the lineage of Aaron appeared in the scene. They were the descendants of Aaron who served as the first high priest. In Exodus chapter 29, verse 9, it says, "And fasten caps on them, then tie sashes on Aaron and his sons. The priesthood is theirs by a lasting ordinance. Then you shall ordain Aaron and his sons." The Pentateuch records numerous sacrificial offerings and priests who carried them out, especially in Leviticus. What is the priest? What does it mean? Priest denotes one who offers sacrifices, officiating at many offerings and rituals. The priest in the Old Testament represented the people before God, being a mediator between people and God. Let's compare the priest to the prophet. The prophet mediated God and the people, and he represented God to people, speaking the word of God to men. While the priest also mediated God and people, but he would go to God on behalf of men. The offerings officiated by the priests were worships to God and also were atonement for people's sin. Representing people, the priests led the offerings and other rituals and established a good model for serving God. As a religious leader and a representative of people, the priest had great authority and power. There were various duties of the priest. For instance, the priest managed God's holy place or altar and took charge of sacrifices, overseeing daily sacrificial offerings. They taught the law of God to the people and sought God's will. They also took upon the role of judge, regulating the disease and testing whether a wife was faithful or unfaithful. They gave offerings for the cleanliness of the Nazarites, took part in the offerings made for special vows, blew the horns to announce times of celebration of war, and gave blessings in the name of God. These were some lists of priestly duties. The most important duty of priests was offerings. He's the one who go to God on behalf of people, carried out offerings to atone for their sin and uncleanness. In Malachi chapter 2 verse 7, the special role of priest is described as this: "For the lips of a priest ought to preserve knowledge, because he is the messenger of the Lord Almighty, and people seek instruction from his mouth." People, to be more specific, all sinners, absolutely needed a priest through whom they could gain forgiveness. However, these priests who played the important duties mediating people and God were also imperfect. That's what the Bible shows us. In Hebrews chapter 7, 27 and 28, it says, unlike the other high priest, he does not need to offer sacrifices day after day, first for his own sins and then for the sins of the people. He sacrificed for their sins once for all when he offered himself. For the law appoints as high priest men in all their weakness, but the oath, which came after the law, appointed the Son who has been made perfect forever. These verses compare the high priest to Jesus and state that they needed to offer sacrifice for their own sins first before offering for others. The priests were also sinners and had weakness and flaws under the law. Although they were messengers of the Lord Almighty, they still were imperfect. Hebrews chapter 10 verse 11 says, day after day every priest stands and performs his religious duties. Again and again he offers the same sacrifices which can never take away sins. Sacrificial offerings and other rituals done by human priests were not just a temporary provision. In Leviticus chapter 4 verse 3 it says, if the anointed priest sins, bringing guilt on the people, he must bring to the Lord a young bull without defect, as a sin offering for the sin he has committed. There are cases mentioned in the Bible where the priests committed sins or made mistakes during the offerings. Jeremiah chapter 5 verse 31 it says, the prophets prophesy lies. The priests rule by their own authority, and my people love it this way. But what will you do in the end? This was written when Israel was falling apart. Priests took the lead in corruption at the time. In fact, when Jesus came to the earth, priests played a crucial role to crucify Jesus on the cross. Innocent blood was required in offerings made to atone for sin. God chose priests to carry out the sacrifices. Only priests could play the role to solve the sin problem of people. However, these priests were also humans with flaws, and their offerings and sacrifices were temporary in nature. Looking at them, we come to realize that we need someone more than human priests, a perfect and eternal priest. I will continue in the next video with the topic of Christ being the perfect priest.